Our driver winces each time his beloved Nissan 4x4 heaves us out of one pothole and into the next. We're heading north on the main road linking Ghana's biggest city, Accra, to the remote eastern corridor. It wasn't long before the pavement crumbled into the lunar dirt roadway we are now on. It takes 16 hours to drive the grueling 800 kilometers to our destination. Along the way, we pass the gruesome remnants of head-on collisions. We stop only at dusk to avoid bandits who stalk the night road near Kumasi. In Bupe, we see thatched mats, actually the roofs of homes, submerged under river waters, unable to empty into Lake Volta, itself swollen by weeks of torrential rain. Soon, the puddles on the road become small lakes, where young boys guide us through for just pennies. The drive to Kpandai is a stark lesson in development, as we watch layer after layer of infrastructure peel away with the hours and dust, until only the barest of basic services remain. I'm here on the edge of the savannah to witness something unusual, a social experiment that challenges the way men and women have been doing things for generations, easing the unenviable burden that women alone endure. Bent over, John Band-Aid draws wide arcs with his broom as he sweeps leaves outside the doorway of his mud brick home. A small crowd of children and neighbors gather to watch me, the white O'Bruni, as I follow John and his corn broom with my microphone.
Yes, actually, a lot of my friends or my colleagues who are living surrounding us, whenever I'm sweeping, let me take sweeping for granted, they feel it's a foolish thing. Why? Because they felt everything should be on the woman. But within me, I feel I should help my partner to reduce her burden.
What John is doing is something unheard of in this part of Ghana, something only women and girls do. He and his family of 2 boys and 2 girls are one of 100 families hand-picked in villages across the Eastern Corridor to live out gender equity for all to observe. Men, women, boys and girls sharing the household workload regardless of gender and tradition. They are called gender role model families, and they have been turning tradition on its head since this experiment began in 2003. Aided by funds from the Canadian Co-operative Association, the program is the brainchild of Send Ghana, an organization whose aim it is to bring development and prosperity to rural villages in the Eastern Corridor. I asked Send Country Director Samuel Zan how something as benign as sweeping can make life easier for women in this part of Ghana.
I can visualize the woman going with the man to the farm. That is how the day begins. And the woman is carrying the water that they will drink, the food that they will eat to the farm. She works with the man until they close. The woman goes to carry firewood back home that she will use to cook. In the meantime, as they were going, she has a baby at the back of her, she's carrying the baby on her back. She returns home, both are tired, and the man takes a seat under, leans against the wall, smoking his tobacco or drinking his local beer. And the woman has to rush to the river to fetch water back home on her head and begins to sweep and tidy up the place and start setting the fire to cook. And that finishes, and she makes sure that the children are bathed and sent to bed. And she has to be ready for action in the night at bedtime. I'm sure you understand what that means. This is just to give you a glimpse of the social structure, the condition of labor of women in the Eastern Corridor. So if even one single load will be taken away from the woman, be it the sweeping, cleaning of the children, or helping to draw the water from the river with a bicycle or whatever, it's a huge, huge, huge benefit to the woman.
I 38.
Across town, a customer haggles over the price of a set of plastic bowls at a stall along Kpandai's dusty main thoroughfare. John's wife Laraba smiles as she settles on a figure, then bags the colorful bowls for her customer. The help that Laraba gets from her husband and children has given her more time to attend to her business. It's going well, and Laraba has also used some small loans from her credit union to expand her shop.
The credit that Sen Foundation advanced to us. We added something, and Sen Foundation added something, and that improved on my business. And because of that, we were able to improve our children's education, to pay for their school fees and move them further in the academic calendar.
Esther Mahama is the manager of the Kpandai Community Cooperative Credit Union. She says women like Laraba do well when given loans and business training.
So most women don't have that opportunity, and one of the reasons being that they are not, most of them don't work. They don't have any activity doing that generates income for them. And once you are not the type who is able to be self-dependent and you depend solely on a man for everything, definitely he will control your life. That is the challenge women face here. But I think things are changing. By at least giving them something to do in the form of giving them loans that they could work with, microfinance, that they could work with and be able to pay. But that will make them self-sufficient. They will be independent. They could also earn something to contribute to the family. And in that case, the husbands will then start to respect their views. I think that's one of the ways that I see changes coming to the lives of the women.
Weakened by a heart condition and stricken with recurring malaria, Laraba had to abandon her previous business selling seasonal crops to customers in Accra. With help from her credit union, she opened her own shop near her home.
Initially, the credit that was advanced to me helped me to expand the business. But it got to a point where I got sick, and I had to use most of the money to pay for the medical bills.
Laraba somehow made the payments and grew her savings sufficiently to graduate from the microfinance program to a full member of the credit union and access to larger loans. Esther Mahama,
because of the respect she has in the community, the husband respects her, and once your husband respects you, the other members of the family will also accord you that respect, and it reflects in her life. I learn a lot from her personally too. I sit with her sometimes and we chat, and I learn so much from her.
the sun has set, and the only light illuminating the Banda courtyard comes from 2 bare light bulbs, and from the sea of stars shimmering over our heads. It's getting late, but Laraba has some messages to impart before she leaves for evening prayers at her church. Messages about the way the credit union is reaching out to women in Kpandai.
Larger loans would help. If the credit union could look at that, women would not feel pressured to take loans from so many places, something which can destabilize their business. This way, they could concentrate on just one source of income, and repayment would be simpler.
Hearing John and Laraba talk about their lives together, I'm reminded about how gender equality is still out of reach for most women living in northern Ghana. Indeed, for as far as one can travel worldwide, women continue to have fewer rights, lower education and health status, less income, and less access to resources and decision-making than men. Yet women's critical roles in food production, income generation, management of natural resources, community organization, and domestic responsibilities are essential for sustainable development and for human happiness. At 62, John continues to work his plot of land, harvesting the yams he learned to grow as a boy while helping out on his father's farm. With the added income Laraba brings in, he's convinced of the value of sharing in the cooking and cleaning. He says the next generation must take up the torch. Soft-spoken, like his father, Jonathan Banda exudes a quiet confidence as he describes growing up in such an unusual household. He credits his parents' faith and the respect they show each other with how he views women. A school teacher for 2 years now, Jonathan wants to pass this along to the children he teaches.
Again. Again.
I was born into it. I didn't face so much challenge understanding the word.
I grew up understanding the word gender and the importance of gender equality. When I was growing up, I was taught about it in school too, so it helped me to understand it better. And when I went through the training college, I was taught it is good for us to teach this to the younger ones, so they will grow up with it. I teach the advantages of gender equality. And at times, I use my family as examples. Most of the time, my students visit me in the house, and they see my parents, the way they talk. My father sweeping. At times, the younger ones will be doing home chores while my father is weeding. They see it to be strange, and I use them as an example and say it is so beneficial.
There has been pushback from neighbors and villagers, some deeply unsettled by this break with the way things are done, the way things have always been done. John Banda.
So when I'm sweeping the eye, after all, John, why do you waste your time? Where is your wife? And I continue sweeping. Pounding, I continue.
John's family is also not immune to the criticism leveled by friends and neighbors. Though proud of her father's efforts to support her mother, John's 15-year-old daughter, Helena, tells me she is deeply embarrassed when her father sweeps in full view of her friends.
My father will say, whatever, if I'm sweeping, I should leave the sweeping so that...
Sometimes when I'm sweeping in the morning and need to go to school to do a project, my father will take the broom and start sweeping. My friends will ask, how can I leave my father sweeping in the house? It's no good, and I will tell them my father loves me.
My father loves me, that is why.
Jonathan's younger brother, Jacob, has found a way to hold his ground when social pressures mount. Jonathan tells his story.
He went and fetched water and was coming on his way. The colleagues or the friends met him and they were laughing. I was in there. But I've seen some before, because most of our neighbors, boys does not fetch water. And boys, they have small teams. Jacob is doing well in football. And their colleagues do come here waiting for him so he can finish the house chores or housework as a responsibility after for them to go to the field. And he's also a striker in his team. So most of the time they will come waiting. Jacob will be fetching water. I have to go 3 times, 4 times. They'll be talking up and down. Jacob wouldn't mind them. And we continue fetching until he finish. Then they go. So most of the time they tease him a lot. And they think through that he will stop. But Jacob does not stop. It continues.
Skeptics say people like John and Lariba are working against tradition, unsettling the historical balance of the sexes. Chief Saka Kpandai in nearby Kpandai calls this a misreading of tradition and the needs of families.
Gender does not change tradition.
Gender does not change tradition. Nothing changes tradition. Because tradition is something that is inherited, you see. What gender can change is something we ourselves have been imposing on tradition. It doesn't mean that this is how it was. If you look at our tradition and religion too, even God didn't tell us we should leave everything to our wives. God said we should help our women. We should not leave things to women alone. We want improvement for our families. If we want improvement, we must change. Now we are in a modern Ghana. We must do something to progress. Everybody who practices gender will develop.
In 2005, Chief Kpandai took part in a SEND program to train gender trainers. His voice carries weight. His message about men and women is clear.
I told them this is what's come. Gender has come. We shall work hand to hand with our wives and children. The girls and the boys should share one idea. They should help one another. You know, in Ganja we have a proverb. The right washes the left, and the left also washes the right. When you wash, one hand cannot wash itself. What I've observed is this. When you practice gender, you yourself are free, because there is no confusion in the family or in your house or compound.
Lariba agrees. She says she can see a difference in the way families are behaving, even in her own neighborhood.
I noticed in other neighborhoods that the men left all the welfare of the children to the mother. For example, if the children are not doing what is right, the man often looks after the women to put them on the right path. In our household, my husband often insists that the children should do the right thing. And so most of the neighbors saw that when the man supported the wife to ensure that the children did the right thing, our children behaved differently than their children, and so they started to emulate what we were doing.
Zan and the field staff at SEND are training a new wave of gender role model families. He admits change is slow, but he says there are signs that the tide of thought is turning.
It's gradual. We are beginning to witness real improvements that at least we can point to our model families and say real change is occurring in a small way among families. But we can also see in the broader society that other people who are not specifically targeted as model families are beginning to manifest these good attitudes of behavior change and of cooperation with their families.
Leaning back in her black leather chair at the credit union office, Esther offers her take on the future as she sees it unfolding.
Yes, I think that the world is changing and we have to also change. We have to send our girl child to a school and give them the same opportunities as we give to the boys. We are not saying girls should be given more priority than boys, no. But they should be given the same opportunity. I don't want to be favored. I want to merit whatever I get. That's all.
The Canadian Cooperative Association and SEND Ghana are preparing 100 more families to live out gender equality in their villages this year. Taken together, they're but a small proportion of rural families living in northern Ghana. But the messages their daily activities send out are catching the attention of neighbors and community leaders in ways no billboard or media campaign could.
And I think that small as it is, The idea of the model family and linking this family to other opportunities of family-based cooperatives and linking them up to other opportunities of community savings through credit union has a wonderful future. We may not see so much of it today, but I have a dream that this will work towards bringing a lot more actors into it. And one day, it will become the norm and the practice in northern Ghana.
You can learn more about how Send and credit unions are opening new opportunities for rural women in Ghana by visiting the Canadian Cooperative Association website at www.coopscanada.coop. More material about equality between men and women and the fight to end poverty can be found at the Canadian International Development Agency's website at www.acdi-cida.gc.ca/equality.